Welcome everyone to today's presentation. Learn the 3 most important keys to unlocking your best year yet. My name's Simon Meadows from Sterling Business Coaching, and I'm going to be with you here today to walk you through today's presentation, which is going to be between an hour and an hour and a half long. Today's shareaways, they're not takeaways, they're for us all to share. I want to show you the best year yet system that we use, and use in businesses and clients to get immediate results. So I'm going to give you a snapshot of that best year yet system that we use throughout the whole of the year with all of our clients and some of you that are on the call today as well. Another shareaway is to learn the 7 principles that you need to become who you need to be. Okay, I'm going to say that again. So these are the 7 principles that you need to become who you need to be. Okay, because to make this your best year yet, you need to be somebody different, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the presentation. But there's 7 principles to help you get the most and to make sure that this is your best year yet. And the most important thing for me is that at the end of this presentation, I hope you will have a realization of who you need to be, not just for this year but for years to come as well. So realize who you need to be. So this is about making the most of a year. This is part of the full program that we have, and you can talk to us about that at any point. Lots of our clients are working through the program and through the workbooks that we have. So if you want to talk more about that, as you see snippets of as we go through, just jot a note down in the question box, and we'll touch base at the end of the presentation. If you're watching a recording of this, somewhere there will be a button to get in contact, or some kind of link for a one-to-one conversation about any of the programs that we talk about as we go through, as we work with the successful clients that we do. Okay, so moving on then, this presentation is about 3 keys. Okay, so 3 keys to unlocking the potential of your best year yet. 3 steps, if you like. Okay, to do that, we're going to look at 8 focuses, and these 8 focuses I'll show you in a second. But these, basically, if you've heard of it before, are the wheel of life. And then we're going to look at 1 plan. So 3 keys, 8 focuses, and 1 plan. Just getting a few more people joining us as we're on here. So those that have just joined us, if you can hear me and see the slide which says 3 keys, 8 focuses, 1 plan, if you can just put your hand up on the control panel, that would be great. Just so I know that everybody's with us. Yep, all the hands have gone up there, so thanks for that. Let's get all those to go down if I can. Okay, so for those that have joined us as well, we're going to make sure that we use the questions box. So if there's any comments, any questions, this is a presentation of participation, so please put any questions in the questions box, and we'll either go through them as we can, or we'll certainly make sure we come to them at the end. So the next question I have to challenge you, the year has about 340 days left. Okay, and my question is, will you just for the rest of the year be one of the crowd? Will you go the same way that everybody around you goes? Will you do the same things that they do? Will you do the same things that you've always done? Okay, so the question with the 340 days that we've got left or so of the year is not will those days pass by, but it's what will you do with that time left. And I want you to reframe the way that you look at things, okay? Because I want you to take an attitude like most of the people that are in the rest of the crowd of, oh, I'll give it a go. I don't want you to have that attitude. So I don't want you to do what everybody else do and say, I'll give it a go. I want you to change the mindset that you have and reframe that to the fact that you will do everything possible and impossible to make this your best year yet. The impossible are just things that haven't been achieved yet. Okay. So there are things that you will feel as we go through this presentation that are just too far out there for you, too impossible for you, but I can assure you that for somebody in the world, they've achieved that, and it wasn't impossible for them, and likewise it is not impossible for you. So you've got to do everything that you can that is possible and impossible to make this your best year yet. And in doing that, I mentioned the 8 focuses. Some of you who are on the presentation have seen me use this many times before, and I'm going to use it slightly differently now because we have 8 focuses of life. And just to go round those, it's health, it's family, it's romance, personal growth. So how are you learning? How are you growing? What new skills are you taking on, whether they be work skills or personal skills? You could be learning a new sport, for example. Recreation, your hobby, your personal time, your holidays. Physical environment. The icon there doesn't quite do it justice, but physical environment. Where do you work? Where do you live? How happy are you with that? Your career. So if you're employed, how does your career look? How does your job look? Are you looking to move from that? Are you looking to progress through that? If you have your own business, how is that looking at the moment? How successful is it? Okay. How successful can it be? Money, obviously, but bear in mind, remember that money is just a way of achieving a lot of the other focus areas on the wheel. So we have 8 focuses there, and what I want you to do just for a moment, and I'm going to trust that you're doing this because I can't see you, and I'm going to trust that you're going to jot this down, but it's important you've got some paper and some pens to jot some things down here. I want you to write down the single most important focus area of your life for this year coming. So what is your single most important focus area to improve and to work on in this coming year? So are you looking to improve your health? Are you looking at finding romance and finding a partner perhaps? Are you looking at a certain breakthrough of income? Talking of money, just while you're writing that down, I received a great book in the post the other day by Tony Robbins. It's the first book he's written for a long while, and it's called Money, Master the Game. If you're looking to improve anything to do with your wealth and your money, 2 people I would recommend. Robert Kiyosaki for that area, Rich Dad Poor Dad, is the book that he wrote, and certainly I would recommend Tony Robbins' book Money, Master the Game. So hopefully you've written down a number 1 focus point for this year. What I'd then like you to do, okay, is to think about that focus point and think about how it would feel to achieve that. Okay, because that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get you a big enough why. If you work on these focus areas, these are your why to do the possible and the impossible. Okay. I use this in all my webinars and all my seminars and all my presentations. These are reasons, these are your whys to have the actions taken that you need to take. Okay, so just have a think of what would it like, visualize it, and just jot some words down underneath that. So if you've written down health, think about it. Is it a particular weight limit? Is it a particular lack of aches and pains? Is it a particular mobility that you want to have? Is it an illness that you want to rid yourself of? If it's your career, is it a particular success? Is it a particular new client that you want to win? So jot down the details and put there how you would feel. Because to get action and to get real massive action, you've got to put emotion behind it. Okay, so hopefully you've written some things down on there. So they're the 8 focus areas. Our next item to work through is going to be the 3 keys. So I'm just going to tell you what these are. The first key is destination first. Now I know that sounds simple, and you've heard lots of courses and lots of audiobooks talk about setting goals, but for me, really, when I've read autobiographies and talked to really successful business owners and really successful sports people, etc., the one thing that they all have in common is that they have a laser focused vision of what the destination is going to look like, whether that be the destination of a race if it's a motorcycle racer, or a destination of a career, or it can be 10 years out, it can be 2 months out, it can be 2 or 3 minutes out, but they always have a destination of exactly where they want to be. And without that clear view of that destination, I'm absolutely certain they would not be as successful and wouldn't get to the positions that they are. So destination first is the first key. The next one is to become more. Now I mentioned stepping up earlier on, right at the beginning of the presentation. You've got to become more than you are right now. And we're going to talk about this in quite a bit of detail. This is just one topic in the full Best Year Yet system that I talked about, that we work through with all the level of clients. But this area is particularly what I want to focus on in this presentation, because it is the single most important key. Without it, if you don't step up, become more, fill those shoes, then it's going to be a really, really difficult time to achieve the year that you want. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how you can become more as part of that second key. And the final key is working the plan. Okay. Now this is also a vital step, but this is common sense. This is probably when we do the workbook, and we work through the whole day of the Best Year Yet, the whole afternoon is dedicated to work your plan, because this is what takes the time. This is where the detail is. This is where the finishing off is. So the thing you've got to think about is, it's no good having a plan, it's no good putting it in a filing cabinet, getting it out in 6 years' time. This is about getting a plan and doing something with it right now. It's about taking the plan out every 3 months, holding it up against the decisions that you're going to make. So it's working the plan. That's the final key that we're going to talk about today. And before I move on, I'd like to give credit to the person that I acknowledge as creating this with me back in 2012, a guy called Rowan Dredge. Rowan is based in Australia. He's a good friend of mine. Follow each other very closely on social media too. He's got some great newsletters, some great articles, a very spiritual guy, and if you get a chance, I certainly recommend that you Google Rowan Dredge, or visit his website rowandredge.com, and have a look at some of the content he's got. It's very inspirational, and I certainly give him a lot of credit for what you're looking at here, and for the whole of the Making the Most of the Year workbook and presentation and course that we go through at various points in the year. So big thanks to Rowan for that. Okay, so on to key number 1, destination first. Okay, so we're going to talk about this in the context of this year. Okay, so I want you to think about where you want to be in December, the end of December or the beginning of January, but the end of December 2015. So have a think about where you want to be, and we're going to work through a couple of sheets that are going to help you do that. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the year as though you were at the end of it and what you would tell me. But before we do that, I have something called forward reflection. So I'd just like you to jot down the biggest challenges that you had last year. Okay, because I want to put these behind you, and I want to get rid of the skeletons in the cupboard. So what were your biggest challenges? Jot down on a piece of paper what your biggest challenges were last year. Was it cash flow? Was it generating leads? So what were your biggest challenges last year? Okay, then I want you to write down on the same piece of paper, and I'm trusting that you're doing this. I want you to write down on the same piece of paper what were your biggest opportunities last year. What were your biggest opportunities? Whether you took advantage of them or not, what were your biggest opportunities? So just jot those down. Was it an opportunity to go into partnership with someone? Was it an opportunity to develop a new product or a new service line? Was it an opportunity to buy a business or sell your business? What was the opportunity that you had last year? What were the biggest opportunities? And what I want you to look at those and think is that the challenges are what you're going to avoid, and the opportunities are the items that you're going to strive towards, duplicate and replicate, or look for again. Okay, so you don't miss the opportunities if they come again, or if the opportunity does come, you grasp it as you did last time if it was a great opportunity. Okay, and that's the past. That was last year. Okay, so what I want you to do next, if I was to meet you in 12 months time, so I'm meeting you at the end of this year, meeting you at the end of December, what would you tell me that has absolutely made you delighted with the success that you've had? Okay, so I want you to think about your best year yet. I want you to think about the things that you would love to achieve, love to tell me that have been absolutely thrilling, things that you're proud of. Okay, and I want you to jot those down on a piece of paper. So put there 12 months, and then just write down the things that you would tell me. Would you have moved house? Would you have had a new car? Would you have got that new relationship? Think about those focus areas all the time as we go through. Think about that main focus area that you wrote down right at the beginning. So if I was to meet you in 12 months at the end of this year, what would you tell me that delights you? What really sparks you? What makes you emotional? So write down to that what you tell me in 12 months time. Now, just to make sure that you're all live people out there and you've not fallen to sleep, in the questions box I'd like you to type in one thing that you would absolutely be excited, amazed, so thrilled that you've achieved. What's your most thrilling thing that you want to achieve this year? And just write it down in the questions box for me right now. And that just gives me an opportunity to get a bit of a drink as well. So in the questions box, please don't use the chat box because I'm not monitoring that at the moment. In the questions box, just type in what is the most exciting, most thrilling thing that you see yourself as achieving or want to achieve at the end of this year. Okay, so we've got a few things being typed in here. So we've got taking a month vacation away from the business. Wow, that's a great one. To actually take that amount of time is a huge step from what most people actually achieve. improving the team and having a great team that I can be proud of. Somebody's put here, big achievement. Oh, it's Chris. Big achievement would be to have a new lens on order. Great. So there's lots of things. For me, one of the things that I want to do this year is take another month sabbatical, and I've got a few things that I want to buy as well on top of my car this year. For me, one of the most important things this year is actually recreation side, and I've got some great things that I want to do with my wife and the horses at home, so that for me is going to be quite a big one. Might be places you want to see in the world. A few people have written down various places in the world. A trip to Europe, because obviously we've got people on this presentation from around the world. So somebody wants to come to Europe, that's absolutely great, and that's a great thing to have. So the key thing here is most people don't achieve what they want because they don't plug it into their destination. They don't write it down. They don't visualize it. Okay, so a piece of homework for you: when you've done this presentation and you're finished with this presentation, I want you to go back over your notes and I want you to add more detail. So rather than just a trip to Europe, what cities do you want to go to? What length of time do you want to have away? Are there any particular places that you want to go? Do you want to see the Eiffel Tower? Do you want to see Westminster in London or Buckingham Palace? What do you want to see? Add the detail to it, because the clearer and more laser focused that view of the destination is that you write down, don't keep it in your head, write it down, the more likely you are to achieve it. I always use the example of a sat-nav system in a car. You put your mapping system into your car, your GPS system, and if you put it on, you can see all the roads around you. But if you don't put a destination in, you'll drive off, you'll have a lovely drive around, perhaps some lovely country roads, but you won't get to where you want to be. You've got to put the destination in there. And the reason you need to put the destination in there is that if you do go off course, and we get attracted by shiny things, me in particular, but if you do go off course, if you do get distracted, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, then because you've got your destination in, it's easy to get back on track. It's easy to reroute. It's easy to take those instructions and look at a destination and say, I'm not going the way that I want to go. I'm not getting towards my destination, so I need to get back on track, back on route. Okay, so I want you to have a think about the next 90 days now. So we're going perhaps to the end of March, end of April, and I want you to think what you need to do to get you closer to your destination. So what steps, what actions would you have to be either working on or have achieved to get you closer to that destination? So if you want that trip to Europe, perhaps actually having scheduled your flights would be something that you've got to do in the next 90 days, particularly if the journey is shortly after that. So I want you to write down a list of things that you have to do in the next 90 days to get towards that delighted state. Because having the destination is great, but if you never turn the ignition on the car, if you never get in gear and you never take those left and right turns and follow the instructions and do the activity, then again you're never going to get any closer. And that's one of the biggest problems with New Year's resolutions. People very often set them, they write them down, they put them somewhere, but then they take no action. And that's the thing, it's about taking action, and it's about doing something in the next 90 days. So what would you need to do in the next 90 days? And again, I'm trusting that you're writing things down under that, head it up 90 days, but just write down some things that you would do in the next 90 days. And setting your destination is as simple as that. People very often procrastinate about setting destination, about setting goals, but the key thing is that you've got to be detailed, you've got to be laser focused on it, you've got to be clear on it. Okay, if you've struggled with any part of that, then this is something to go back to and spend some time on. But that's all you need to do. To make this your best year yet, set your destination and set some actions that you're going to work on within the next 90 days and write them down and get them in front of you and start working through them. But it's a destination isn't always in 20-30 years time. It's the destination of where you want to be in 90 days time, 6 months time, 12 months time. So keep reviewing the destination. Okay, so the next key, I can get the slides to work now, pressing the wrong keypad, is to become more. Who do you have to become to implement your plan? You now know where you want to be. Okay, you now know the things that you absolutely said are vital to the success of this year. You now know the things that you're going to be doing within the next 90 days. So this next section is all about who you need to become to implement that plan. Okay, and it's all about realizing who you need to be in those 8 focus areas. So don't forget those focuses. Jim Rohn once said, don't wish to have more, but to become more. Because you can't have more unless you become more. Okay, so Jim Rohn, don't wish to have more, but to become more. So we're going to look at 7 principles to becoming more, and we're going to work through these in some detail. Some are more in depth than others, but there are 7 principles in this presentation to help you become more, so that you can implement the plan and the actions during the rest of this year. And some of these will resonate with you. Some of these you'll think, well, that's not really appropriate to me, so make notes as you see fit as we go through this, because each of them is individual to you and your needs and your aspirations. So you know what you've written down, you know the kind of person that you need to become. So if any of these sort of have a blinding flash of the obvious moment, a light bulb moment, then jot it down. The first one is self-leadership. Now, many of us, particularly on this presentation, on this call at the moment, are sole traders. Okay, so you might say, well, how on earth can I lead myself? Well, absolutely, you must lead yourself. It's our self-talk. Yeah. We have to have conversations with ourselves. We have to make sure that we've got discipline to get the job done. We have to make sure that we're motivated. We have to make sure that we're moving towards that vision, that reality that you've defined of what 2015, the next year ahead, is going to look like. So if you're a sole trader, don't say this doesn't apply to me. Absolutely it does. And this is the thing that lets most sole traders down. They don't believe that they need to manage and lead themselves. And the best leadership is self-leadership. If you have a team, okay, so for those of you who are on the call who actually do have a team, and you have people working with you, beneath you, or alongside you, if you have a team, how many of them know your vision? How many of them see you as an example to follow? So if you're motivated, if you're disciplined, if you're focused, then the likelihood is that other people will then follow. And some of the best leaders in the world actually didn't start out as leaders. They don't really think of themselves as leaders, but people follow because they see them as an example. So the best leadership is self-leadership. It's all about you. And that's quite hard for some people to comprehend. It is all about you. It is about how you lead yourself, the example that you set, so that others will follow, and that you will follow if you're a sole trader. But of course you will have suppliers, you'll have advisors, hopefully you've got a coach. you have your accountant, your bank relationship manager. All these people need to see that you have self-leadership. So under this, if there's anything that you think of that you need to do, is this an area you need to work on? There are lots of books out there. You have The Chimp Paradox, The Happiness Advantage. Lots of great books out there on self-motivation, leadership. Ken Blanchard is a great author on a lot of leadership and management areas in business. So who do you need to be? What self-leadership skills do you need to focus on? Have you realized that perhaps you need to be a bit more disciplined? Do you need to have a tidier frame of mind or a tidier workplace? Do you need to be better at timekeeping? That's one of my things that I'm going to strive this year toward. So what is your self-talk? Do you find yourself doubting? Do you find yourself saying, perhaps it will happen, perhaps it won't? Okay, so have a think about self-leadership. The next principle is that you have to determine how goals work on you. Okay, so very often when we set goals, it feels as though everyone else is going and pushing the other way. Success is hard. The world, when you set goals, the world suddenly seems to be a stream that's coming the opposite way against you. And that's something that we have to do something about. We have to realize of how goals work on you. So the question is, do you make the goal, or does the goal make you? Okay, so in a second, do you make the goal, or does the goal make you? And there is no right or wrong answer to that. It can be both. If you make the goal, okay, that's fine. If you are the person who is inspiring that goal, if you are the person who is driving that goal forward, then that's great. If you set a goal and then you're getting swept along by the actions within that goal, again, that's fine. But just have an understanding of how goals work on you. Now, do you need a big goal to chase, or do you need small goals, small milestones, small steps that show progress? Okay. Different goals, different levels. I like to have long-term goals that I can really strive for. I have goals that are set 10, 15, 20 years in the future, and I focus on them all the time. Some people like to see goals that are this week, next month. So have a think about how goals work on you, because if you are working with either someone from Sterling or you're working with other advisors, don't let people set goals that don't work for you. Don't let people set big goals if you're a small goal person, and vice versa. Don't let people underestimate your goals if you're a big striver, if you're somebody who loves to make the goals and loves to stand out and strive to something that's in the distance. So have a think about how the goals work on you. Now, probably for most of the people on the call, that's something they haven't really thought about before. And very often when you set a goal and the world and the universe and everybody around you seems to be pushing the other way and trying to kick you when you're down, all that kind of feelings that you have is because you're starting to stand out when you set a goal. Most people don't have goals. Most people don't have aspirations. They certainly don't write them down, as all goals should be done. So you are now standing out, and when you stand out, it does feel that people are against you and pushing. So be aware of how those goals work on you. Be aware of how you feel when that resistance starts to come. The next key is expand your network. Okay. If you're going to have the best year that you've had so far, who's got what you want and need? Okay. Who's got the resources? Who's got the skills? Who's got the other contacts that you need to get to? Meet them, talk to them, speak to them on the phone, connect with them by Skype, meet them for a coffee. Go to where these people are. If people have the resources that you need, then go and network with them. Don't always network with your peers and people who are doing what you do. Go to these people who are the best. Okay? Step up a level. Many people like to learn and communicate and network with people who are either on the same level or perhaps aren't quite as successful as them. Now you might argue that's a bit conceited, but at the end of the day, we like to stay in our comfort zones. This year, if you're going to make it your best year yet, is not a year for comfort zones. So step up a level, start mixing, start networking, start building knowledge and relationships with people who you perceive are levels above you. Learn from the best. If somebody's great at doing what you do, then model them. Mirror what they do. Tweak, improve, make it your own. Learn from the best. Learn from your advisors, your mentors, your coaches, your heroes. So expand your network. Many people, and I can't remember what book it is, but many people have written one-off letters to their heroes, to the people that they look up to, and asked for a chat, asked what makes them so successful, and very often they get a reply. Successful people like to share the best practice that they've enjoyed. You could say that's a bit of an ego, and for some perhaps it is, but if they've done something really well, then learn from them. So expand your network. The next one is to develop your skills to influence those around you. Okay, this is about 360-degree relationships. Okay, so I'm just going to say that line again. Develop your skills so that you can influence those around you. Now there's a great book which is the 7 Principles of Influence by Robert, it's an Italian name, so I think it's Cialdini, but it's a great book, and it talks about the ways that you can influence people, and it's really important that you influence those people all the way around you, people above you, people beside you, and people below you. Draw people into your circle. Everyone is needed to contribute to your success. Build rapport with these people. Use your skills to influence them. Some of the best ideas often come from the shop floor. I think that's one of Ken Blanchard's quotes in Gung Ho. So if you have people on the shop floor, if you have team members, influence them, build rapport around them, get the best out of them so that they can contribute to your success. The other thing that I love to do when I think about this is think about the people that I can help. Okay, think about the people that you can teach. If you've got something like today, you're on this presentation, or you're listening to the recording of this presentation, you're going to learn lessons. You will better retain those lessons by teaching them to others. So go and share these lessons. Go and share some of the things that you've learned. Even if it's only one thing, share it with one of the people in your 360-degree relationship. Share it with one of your peers. Share it with somebody who you feel is above you, perhaps your boss if you employed, or it might be your client if you're self-employed, of course, or it could be somebody who's on the shop floor, could be one of your suppliers. I don't like the words on there above, below, but you get the general feeling of it. It's very difficult to show that over. So think about how you can help people, because if you can help other people become more successful, then that will build towards your success and contribute towards your success. So draw people into that circle, influence those people around you to be successful, teach, help, build their success, and most of all, don't forget that it is a complete circle. The next key, you will have setbacks, okay, and generally we categorize these into 3 setbacks. Distraction, as I mentioned, that's one of my worst ones. I have my little not now box where if I get a shiny new idea that could be a distraction, I write it on a post-it note and stick it in a little box to put to one side. Discouragement. There are lots of people around you who will discourage you by saying that you're setting your sights too high, you'll never achieve that. Usually, and unfortunately, a lot of discouragement comes from close friends and family. And one thing I realised way back when I attended a Tony Robbins presentation in 2005, most of the people who discourage you are your close friends and family, because they're afraid of losing you. They feel that if you become more successful, if you achieve these great things, you're going to move away, you're going to become more distant, they're going to lose you. It's not jealousy, sometimes it might be, but generally it's not. Generally it's a fear of loss, and they don't want to lose you. So if you have discouragement, make sure that you reinforce that they're special. Make sure you reinforce that you're always going to be there for them. If it's distraction, keep yourself on plan by looking at your plan. We're going to talk about that later on. And you want to build some strategies, to become more. It's okay being aware of these setbacks, but the thing with this is to jot down, as we're talking now, what could you do to avoid distraction? I mentioned my not now box. That's the way I cope with distraction. Discouragement, I just overwhelm it with positivity. I overwhelm it with the love of the people that are trying to discourage me, so that they know that they're special to me. Disappointment, I often think of many quotes that are around that talk about how many times you have to fail before you actually achieve success. I think about how many times Edison carried out his experiments without success before the one time that it actually succeeded. So I always think about, what strategies, what will you do when these setbacks occur? So you will experience them during the year. It will be a roller coaster ride, but it's important that you recognise that they're all possible, but plan what you'll do with each. Be honest. And most importantly, go back to the last couple of keys. Don't be afraid to ask for help from your network. Don't be afraid to ask for help from those that are around you in your 360-degree relationships. Setbacks are just feedback. They just show that you're getting closer to your destination. Each setback is just an opportunity to get back on track. It's that sat-nav voice that says you've gone off a route. Take the next turning. Turn around when safe to do so. I love it when it does that on the A1 corridor. On the dual carriageway it says turn around when safe to do so. I can't turn around, it's a dual carriageway. All the turning points have gone. So setbacks are just feedback, but you've got to have a strategy, you've got to have tools to cope with those. And the final one on there, disappointment. Disappointment is just the gap between your experience and your expectation. That's all disappointment is. Disappointment isn't an actual real occurrence. It's just your perception of what your experience is compared to your expectation, and the feeling of that gap. But what I would say is that gap is getting closer all the time. So really important to have a look at these three setbacks and how you can cope with them. So hopefully that's made some sense and given you a few things to have a think about. The next key is that your words create your world. Okay, I'll say that again. Your words create your world. The language that you use is absolutely everything. Your vision, your 2000 and whatever it is plan that you've got, whether you've set it for the end of this year or whether you've got plans for next year and the year after. Okay, that vision that you have, no matter whether it's close or far away, that vision that you have must be emotional. It must exude passion. And the way you do that is through your words, through your tone. Yeah. If you're very drab and say I want to have a new car at the end of this year, then that doesn't exude passion. If you say, oh, I'm absolutely excited about the new car I'm going to have, I'm going to be able to put this in it, I'm going to put that on top of it, we're going to go everywhere in the world in it, that's passion. Which one am I more likely to achieve? So the way that you use your words, the words that you use, do create your world. And again, there's a great book and a great audio book, and there's even a film called The Secret, and it talks about our thoughts. Even the words in your mind, your thoughts shape your world. If you can language it, if you can say it, then you can have it. Okay? And the language you've got to use is you've got to treat it as done. But quite often we say I have, I am. So quite a few years ago, I tried to lose some weight quite quickly to do a ring walk, and every day one of my affirmations was I am 13 stone, because I had to lose 1.5 stone in 6 weeks to get to 13 stone so I could go on the wing of the plane. Now I didn't say I'd like to be 13 stone. All being well, I'll be 13 stone in 6 weeks time. That wouldn't have worked. But you say I am 13 stone. I am successful. I am working with this client. I have whatever it is you want to have. I have my new car. I have being on my holiday to Europe. I am in front of the Eiffel Tower. And very often our words become questions, and the chimp inside our head very often starts to question if it's possible. Well, what if you don't? What if you can't get that far? What if you don't have the money? What if you become ill? And that primitive chimp that we have in our head that Stephen Peters talks about in his book The Chimp Paradox, that very often gets us to question ourselves. And it's the answers that you give. I'll find the money. I'll drag myself there. I will be in front of the Eiffel Tower. I will have that new car. I will have that holiday. I will climb to the top of that mountain. We've all seen amazing people through unfortunate circumstances, of war, etc., they've lost limbs, but they've achieved such incredible things of climbing mountains, going to the poles with royalty. There's anybody can achieve anything if they put their mind to it. Okay, so you've got to move your language towards your thoughts. You've got to make sure that any thoughts are actually said. Don't keep them in your head, save them. Now we've got Bluetooth headsets and we've got Bluetooth in cars. There's nothing wrong with sitting in your car and saying out loud the affirmations that you want, as long as you're in the car on your own, of course. Or you could share it with family. I don't mind you doing that. I've done that in the past. But say those affirmations. Use the time in your car. Use the time when you sat in your office. I am this. And keep saying it. Keep looking at your plan and keep using words to make it real, to make it happen. Because it matters what you believe, and your thoughts are a true reflection of what you believe. Okay, so your words create your world. Really important step. The next one is to think in steps, to become more. Okay, to become more, you can't suddenly decide to go from a 6 stone weakling to world champion bodybuilder in one step. It doesn't happen. So you have got to think about steps. If you want to become more, don't try and just run before you can walk. Start with the first step and then take the next step. Set yourselves milestones that you can achieve. Those steps can be daily steps, weekly steps, monthly steps. Think about the sat nav in your car, the GPS that mapping in your car. It doesn't just say set off on your journey and I'll tell you when you get there. It gives you step by step directions of when to turn, when to go left, when to go right. So think steps. Yeah, your activities are steps. And I'll give you an example here. If you say, for example, that you want to create a newsletter, and that's going to be one of the things that you're going to do this year. You're going to create a newsletter and you're going to send it out every month. Yeah. If you just continually focus on just the creation of a newsletter, the likelihood is that you won't actually get it done, unless you give it to somebody else, of course, in its entirety. But you've got to think about creating a layout. You've got to think about creating content. So it might be that you've got to find a copywriter to create that content, or work on that content for you. You might decide to become more and take some lessons on copywriting, on creating. You might watch a few videos, you might go on a copywriting course, you might research your competitors' newsletters, your heroes' newsletters, and take tips from them. So new skills might have to be learned. You might have to train your staff, your team, with new skills. So there's steps of layout, content, logo, size, how you're going to distribute it. Is it going to be printed? Is it going to be emailed out? Now all those steps can be taken over a period of time. So when you're thinking about becoming more, think steps. If you want to improve your health, think how many times you're going to have to go to the gym, or how many times you're going to have to go to the physio. Think those steps. Think it in steps. And the other thing is, when you achieve a step, when you reach a step, give yourself a reward. Go out for a meal. Say well done. Share it on social media. I've just achieved this. Just done the first step of creating my newsletter. Share what you've done. Reward yourself for what you've done. So think steps. So that's the final principle to becoming more. We're well on time here, so the next thing that we're going to work through, and then we'll have a little bit of question and answer time at the end. The next key is working your plan. So the question I challenge you with is, will the plan, sorry, let me wind that back. The question is not will the plan work, but will you work the plan? Get my words into gear. So the question is not will the plan work, but will you work the plan? Because I can absolutely tell you without any hesitation that if you become more, if you set the destination and you work on the activities throughout the year, you will achieve your plan without fail. But it will only work if you work through the plan. You can write all that down. You can write all the new skills that you have. You can write your destinations down. You can think of all the steps that you need. You can think of all the activities that you need. But if you don't actually use the plan and work through the plan, then the plan very likely will not work. And then you'll sit there in December and you'll say, that planning session didn't work. Well, it's not the plan that didn't work, it's because you didn't work the plan. Now this is almost the turnkey to making all this fit together. So many of us write something down on our to-do list, okay, and we look at it at the end of the day, our to-do list, and very often we've not achieved the things on it. The most successful way of using a to-do list each day is to have it with you, to have it in front of you, to have it pop up at you if you're using an electronic version of it. But if you've got that to-do list with you and you're continually looking at it throughout the day, I can bet that most of you will tick off the majority, if not all, of the items. Now many of us, and I'm the same, if something comes up during that day, I write it on my to-do list. I write it on my plan. And the reason I do that is, one, to record that I've done it, but so that I feel good that I've been able to tick it off. but it's no good putting something new on it and then not achieving all the other stuff that's on there. So just a quick question for you while I get a drink. I want you in the questions box to put a capital V and just tell me what's been most valuable. Before we go through the full detail of working the plan, and allow me to just get a breath and take a drink, just write a capital V and then tell me what's been most valuable from the destination or from the becoming more. So put a capital V and then just type straight after it on the same line what's been most valuable so far. So capital V, what's been most valuable so far. Ways of coping with the setbacks. Just going to go through some of these that I've put up on there just so we can share it. 360-degree relationships and helping others. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a great believer that if you contribute and you unconditionally help those around you, then the universe has a great way of rewarding you for that by giving you the success that you strive for. Realization of getting some of the ideas floating around in my head down on paper. Yeah, writing goals down. The fact that I need to become more. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us don't realize that we have to actually do something different. We have to learn new skills to be able to improve and work on that. Definitely. Okay, so we're just about top of the hour now, so we've got another 30 minutes or so left. So we'll go through work the plan, and then I'll mention a little bit of an offer, and we will then deal with any questions. Let's get the slides moving again. So working the plan. This is one of the sheets out of the full workbook that we have, and this is a 90-day action plan. In all my years of being in business, I've worked with and had many coaches myself, and still have a coach now, Eric Donback from the Coach's Coach, and even now I still have a 90-day plan. So this is that wonderful time related period that advertisers talk so much about, that if you're going to advertise to people on TV, or if you're going to keep in contact with your customers for any kind of marketing, that you should keep in contact with them every 90 days. Exactly the same with planning. If you want to keep on top of your plan, you have to keep reviewing it, and the best and longest time that you should leave it is 90 days. So of course you're going to do activities in the meantime, and you can put those into your diary, which we'll look at in a second, but you should have a set of goals that you want to achieve, and then a plan for the 90 days of the things that you're going to do, the goals that you've set yourself for making that happen. So we'll take the example of a newsletter. So on the screen there you can see a 90-day action plan. It's a little bit far off my distance, but in that first box on the left hand side, I would write in there, send out first newsletter. Okay, then I'd look at week 1 and think, okay, have I got any time to do anything on week 1, because I don't want to be distracted. Okay, I certainly don't want to be disappointed if I don't achieve it. So I might look at week 2 and say, okay, week 1's a bit busy, I'm out of the office all week, so week number 2 is to create the template for the newsletter. I might put in there in week 2 to decide on the format of the newsletter. Is it going to be print? Is it going to be email? And then week 3 might be to write the content of the newsletter. And these are all things that you can tick off of actions or achievements that you've got that move you closer to that goal. So as you go across the 90-day plan, in those weeks you set what you're going to do there. Okay, so having a 90-day action plan is really important to keep monitoring. And of course, the 90-day plan has to be compared to your end of year plan. It has to get you to where you want to be at the end of the year. And that's where you can use the plan to make good decisions. If you put something on that plan and then you hold it up against your 12-month goals and it doesn't really fit, it doesn't quite get you to where you want to go, then should it really be something? Is it a distraction? Is it something that actually now is important and it does need dealing with? Because it might very well do. But generally, make decisions. The decision might be to keep it on there, the decision might be, no, do you know what, I need to take it off. But at least you're making an informed decision. So work through for every set of goals for the next 90 days, set a list of things that you're going to achieve, and then across the plan, however you're going to do it, you can do it by a spreadsheet, you can do it on a Google Calendar, you can do it on an iCal, whatever it is you're going to use, but set across the steps and the milestones that you're going to achieve and reach and carry out to achieve that goal within the 90 days. And of course then, when you get towards the end of that 90-day plan, create your next one. So you'll have 4 90-day plans that will get you through the year, and I guarantee they'll work you through the year. And mark them off. If something slips, something slides, and you go off of route, then use the 90-day plan to pull you back on. Okay, I didn't do it in week 2. Something came up, life happens. It shouldn't do, but it does. My mechanism for coping is I'm now going to move everything across, or I'm going to work a weekend and catch up on it. Have that mechanism for getting yourself back on track, because that's the key. Working the plan to keep yourself on track. Get back on that route, get back on that roadmap. Of course, the other thing you can do then is you might say in week 2 I'm going to decide on the layout of my newsletter and choose the way I'm going to send it out, but then there might be other smaller activity which you have to put in your daily to-do list to help you achieve that. So for example, Tuesday's to-do list might have it on there to ring the graphic designer that you use to get them to give you some ideas of layout for an email newsletter. It might be to select a graphic designer to help you with a newsletter. It might be to find something on the internet that allows you to do it yourself and create your own newsletter. So we're breaking it down now from a 30,000 foot view. If you imagine you're dropping down on a parachute, as you drop out the plane at 30,000 feet, which I know you need oxygen for those that are fanatical about the detail. So you're jumping out, you're looking down at the earth from 30,000 feet, and it looks a long way away. So that vision and that destination of where you're going to be, this is about bringing it closer. So bringing it down to 18,000 feet, bring it down to 10,000 feet into your 90-day plan, and then bringing it down into those last few 100 feet where you've really got to do some quite important actions. Trust me, if you've ever jumped out of a plane, you've really got to be thinking in those last few 100 feet of where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing, and how you're going to land. So all your positioning, everything else, is really important at the higher levels, but the real activity and thinking needs to be done at the lower level as well, just before you hit the ground, hopefully with the parachute open. That's always a good advantage. So this is about breaking it down into detail, because if you do the detail, if you do the day-to-day activity, then you will achieve what's in your 90-day plan. If you achieve in your 90-day plan everything that you set out, then you will achieve your 1-year plan. Okay, so the 90-day plan is your benchmark. The 90-day plan is what you review. Your daily calendar is your daily to-do list. This is the thing that you're trying to work through. And of course, if you leave it too long, if you leave it beyond 90 days, you will have not have done the activity and you won't get any closer to where you want to be. So the key thing is, and I'm just going to go back to that slide because it's an important one for me, is that the 90-day action plan is reviewed without fail. That's the plan that you've got to review. That's the plan that you've got to stick to, get yourself back on track, make decisions against. And you can do that by planning your day-to-day activity to make sure that every single day or every single week you are doing something which is getting you towards your goal. And you'll see on the right hand side of the sheet out of the workbook, we have there, we set monthly actions, we set what you need to learn, and thinking about those relationships, who you need to meet. Okay, so who do you need to bring in? Think about all those principles. Who do you need to bring in to help you achieve these goals? What skills do you need to learn to achieve these goals? Do you need to improve your sales and marketing skills? Do you need to improve your planning? Do you need to improve your technical skills at doing your job? Do you need to improve, I think Chris mentioned earlier on about having a new lens. Do you need to improve the equipment that you're working with to achieve this goal? Do you need to buy new equipment? Do you need to invest in new equipment? Do you need to meet your bank, your financer to get this? So this is all about working the plan, having something that you're doing every single day by having that plan in front of you. And I stick the 90-day plan up on the wall. I stick my whole plan on the wall. I use something called a one-page strategic plan. I know where I want to be in 10 years time, and I know each year how I'm going to get there. I keep that up in front of me and I look at it and I see it and I measure against it. So work that plan. And the reason I mention that is that very often we have plans and we put them into filing cabinets, we put them into drawers, we don't look at them as often as we should, particularly as we go further and further through the year, as we have that discouragement, that distraction and those setbacks. The important thing is that you need to keep moving. You need to keep doing activity. If you stop doing the activity that you've set that's going to get you closer towards your goals, then guess what? You won't achieve them. I know that's common sense, and my motto is to enable common sense to become common practice. And it is common sense that you need to keep moving through your activities. So do it. Keep moving. So very important to work the plan. Keep the activity going. Don't let it stop. Don't let big long gaps happen. And if you realize that there are gaps happening, stop, take a breath, take a view of where you are, and plan that restarting, that action, that activity that you're going to do straight away that's going to get you closer towards your goals. The next one when you're working your plan is to make sure that you stand out. Okay? Make sure that your plan stands out. Make sure that your activities stand out. Now there's several ways you can do this, and I'm going to answer the question why you need to do this in a second, but there's several ways you can do this. As I mentioned earlier on, you can share it on social media. Tell people where you want to be. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your networking groups. I mentioned it, a presentation of this a few days ago actually. A lady who was writing a book and she'd been procrastinating over it for quite a while, and she decided that she was going to announce at quite an important local networking group that she was going to launch a book on a particular date in October. Now she stood out then because she stepped up and she told people what she was going to achieve. Now why do you need to do that? Because it holds you to account. It sets an accountability level. As soon as she did that, she told everybody on social media she was going to do it. Everybody at the networking group congratulated her on setting that as a goal and looked forward to it. Now how do you think she would have felt if she hadn't have released a book, which she did do on the date at that meeting? Pretty poor. So this was her way of motivating herself and making sure that she worked through the plan. The other thing is standing out. If you share your goals and you share your activities and you share your plans with people and you become that shining light, then you will attract people who will help you. You will attract, because people will see you as somebody who is focused, somebody who's driven, somebody who is achieving things, and you will attract more people that are positive, more people that believe in your plan, more people who want to help you with that plan. So don't do your plan and hide it in a cabinet. Even if you look at it, don't hide it. Share it with people. Tell people that you are different, you make plans, you make goals, and you're going to stand out, and this is going to be your best year yet. Because if you have passion and enthusiasm that this is absolutely going to be your best year yet, then it will be. And if you tell everybody else about it, you will attract those people. Common sense. You will attract the people who you want to work with. You will attract the team that can help you. You will attract the advisors that can move you forward and get you through this success. Many of the clients that we work with, I think of St James's Place clients who need to break through partner level when it gets to December. We have clear defined goals that we work through them, and by setting those goals and by setting the standards, we work with them, other people work with them to make sure it happens. So stand out, and that's the reason why. The other single most important thing to work in your plan is to do it now. This is in the morning for most people. If you're watching it on recording, it could be any other time of the day, but whatever time of the day it is that you're either with us or watching this right now, and I know we've got people, particularly at this time in the morning, we've got people on the presentation from the other side of the world in Australia and New Zealand. The important thing is to start right now. If you just look at your list after we've finished this presentation, if you set some actions for this week, whether it's Wednesday for you or whether it's Thursday for you or whatever day it is, start right now. Put something up on the wall in front of you that shows your goals. Write them down. Do something with it right now. Okay. And that is about working the plan. So it's about having a 90-day plan that's focusing on where you want to be. Get things put up in front of you. Review them at least every 90 days. Make decisions against them. Break those 90-day activities into weeks and days by putting it into your diary, putting it into your calendar. Making sure that if you don't achieve it, you either catch up, you move it, but you get yourself back on route. That you keep moving, that you keep going, you keep that activity going. And absolutely, most importantly, you start right now and you do something with it right now, either as we're talking or straight after this presentation. Work through that vision, add detail to it, put activities in your diary, start right now. So we've done really well on time, so we've got a few minutes for questions. Before we go into questions, what I would like to offer for all attendees that have been on this course today is a complimentary one-to-one session. I'm very passionate about making sure that people who attend any presentations like this get an opportunity to actually make it work and implement it. Because if you do nothing after this presentation, then not only have you let yourself down, but I feel I've let you down by allowing that to happen. So there's no catches, it's not going to cost you anything, but a one-to-one session, if you're local, it can be face-to-face. If you're not so local or international, then we can do it by Skype, etc. All you need to do is, when we've finished the presentation, just jot a note in the question box that you'd like to have that one-to-one, and I will either speak to you and get the details to you, or I'll email you the details as well. If you're watching the recording, the one-to-one session is available for you guys as well, and there'll be a link to that one-to-one booking below. Because I don't know where you are when you're on the recording, that one-to-one session will be an online initial session that you book there. Probably going to last about an hour and a half, the session, and you need to make sure that you've got all your notes from the presentation today or from the recording today, because we're going to be going through some other worksheets and adding more detail to that. So when you finish with that one-to-one session, it's about having a clear destination, a crystal clear destination of where you want to be. It's about being able to fill those boots, become more, and most importantly about have a plan that will deliver your best year yet without exception, and be able to work that plan. So use the question box and just jot a note in there, and I'll either hang on at the end of the call, or we'll get something to you by email and get one of the team to send you an email with the details of that. So that's the only bit of follow-up really. So we've got probably 3 or 4 minutes for any questions that we can answer. So if you've got a question, please start it with a Q in the questions box. Any questions that you've got, and this is one where it goes quiet for a while you flick through your notes. I'm going to get a drink whilst you think of the questions. So any questions that you have. I'm just going to stop the recording of it there as well while I think about that. Okay, any questions? Start it with a Q, type it in the questions box please, if you would. First question that come up, it's always the first question, or very often at the beginning of questions, will there be a recording? Yes, there will be a recording of this, and it will be online within a week or so, and we're just in the process of setting up a new resource site, so it'll be posted up on there. You'll get sent a link to it and you can watch this to your heart's content. The one thing there won't be is any worksheets, because obviously it's all about making your own notes, but the recording will be there, and there'll be some links on there to some of the books we've mentioned, and also a link for the one-to-one session as well. So yeah, you'll get an email about that, so just watch out for that email. Another question here, should I review my 90-day plan with the rest of the team? Yeah, that's a personal preference. My personal preference, and I've done this over many years now, and I've been using this tactic for about 20 years now. I always shared my overall plan of where I wanted the business to be, the destination. I always shared that with every single member of my business. So we would have what we called a team alignment day, and we'd probably do it once or twice a year, depending on the business and the activity of the business and which business it was. But I would get everybody together, and I would absolutely share it with every member of the team, so that they all knew the direction of the business. They all knew the journey that we were going to take together. They all knew what was expected. They all knew what I was going to give them. They all knew what my contribution was. So yeah, I would definitely share the larger vision of it. But then the 90-day plan, generally most people share that with their immediate team, their immediate managers. If you're a small team and a small business, you could share it with everyone. If you're a sole trader, share it with yourself, perhaps share it with your partner, share it with your advisor, your coach, share it with your bank manager. How many bank managers actually get showed an activity plan of how the business is going to grow in the next 90 days? So share it with immediate people, but I never shared it with the whole team, the 90-day plan. I used to share it with my sort of senior managers, because they were the ones that used to get that through to me and work with me on that, because at the end of the day the activities in there were their activities a lot of the time, because I'm quite a good delegator, so they had activities dedicated to them, so they had to be part of it. Got another question in here. Oh, it's a long one. Let me just try and expand that out. Don't seem to be able to expand the box. Oh, here we go. Okay, at what stage would you write the 90-day plans? Okay, would you have the whole year planned out at the start of the year, so a 1-year goal sheet plus 4 90-day plans, or towards the end of the first 90-day plan, write the second 90-day plan. Right, thanks for that, Chris. That's a long-winded one. I'm glad I can read it rather than you asked it. It varies. I do know some people who, as you've just said there, they have their 1-year goal sheet and they have 4 90-day plans written out. And certainly when I've been on some of the Action International on their coaching workshops, that's the way that they like to do it. And the thing with that I find is it's very long-winded. It takes a lot of time, and very often the last 3 90-day plans of the year, when you first write them out, really are more draft plans. So I do know people who do that exceptionally well. So they have their 1-year goal, they write out 4 90-day plans. The first one is absolutely concrete, and the final 3 then are draft plans, which obviously can be tweaked and changed. The most important thing is that before you get to the end of any 90-day plan, that you're reviewing it, that you're looking at it, and then you are either creating your next 90-day plan or tweaking your draft plan. So if you did have a 90-day draft plan, let's say for March to June this year, and you're working on January to March at the moment, when you get to sort of the last couple of weeks, sit down, review the 90-day plan, and then I would look at the next plan that I've written out and tweak it and make sure that it's still current, it's still achievable, and make sure that everything fits in the times. Because if you've suddenly doubled your workload, and I know Chris is a photographer, that would mean more of your time out and about. You might find that you've got to shift some of those slots on the 90-day plan to different time periods. And some of you might argue, well, that's not the way of achieving it. Well, it is. You just got to realise that life does still have to happen, and you've either got to do one or two things. You might have to take a view of getting new resources and new skills, and perhaps taking somebody on to help you with that, or you look at shifting those around. So you can do that. My preference, and the way that I work with all the one-to-one clients, is that you set your 1-year goals towards the end of the year. So I'd normally set those in December with clients and sit down, certainly at the very latest the early part of the new year, and then we would go through the 90-day plan, and that's as far as we would go, and then we'd review it and create the next 90-day plan. That just makes it that little bit more thinking steps. If there are any key milestones that are in the future, then we make sure that we cover those, perhaps by a separate sheet, or we include those on the main goals and put times to them. Because when you're setting your goals, you're not going to achieve all the goals in the last week of the year. Some of those goals, for example your holiday, might be in July. So obviously the fact that you put a date to it and put all the detail to it, that then would make that more time related. So hopefully, Chris, that's answered that question. Any more questions? Okay, well, I did promise at the beginning that we'd be finished in about an hour and a half, which we've managed to do. So this is me sticking to my plan for this year of being timely. If you do want to take advantage of the one-to-one session, please stay on the call, stay on the presentation, and just drop me a little note in the questions box, and just jot a note in there, yes, I'd like the one-to-one, and we can either have a chat about it or send you some details of it. So thanks very much for being on the webinar, being on the presentation today. If you're watching the recording, go back and watch it again as many times as you like. Make sure you do everything you can to make this year your best year yet, and I look forward to hearing all your successes. Please share them with me on LinkedIn, social media of any type, Facebook in particular, and if you would like to leave me a review of this presentation on either LinkedIn or on Facebook, that's great. You can find us by searching Sterling Business Coaching, if you're not already connected with me, but I think everyone in this call is. So well done on getting through this, well done on being focused on making this your best year. You have set yourself ahead of the few out there who will whine and moan that they've not had the best year, but guess what, they've not done anything about it. So congratulations on stepping up, and I look forward to hearing about your success. And stay on the call if you want to sort